What's up everyone, and welcome to another episode of Handles. My name is Lorenzo and today's story is titled Dead Salmon. So before we get into the story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You cannot continue to miss out on the best short stories out there. Take a second, subscribe. With all that said, question of the day. How do you add value to the life around you? It's kind of a loaded question, I get it, but I'll ask it again. How are you truly adding value to life around you? I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe this story is probably going to change whatever answer you just gave. Stick around. Everyone has a grip on life. Everybody feels like they have a handle. Afraid to share the mistakes. The stories are what connect us. They're the key. We're running out of time. So one day I get invited to go to a get-together just down the street. So I say, hey, no problem, let me roll down there, grab one of my friends, we head that way. When we get there, they're playing a specific game. It's about 5 to 10 people that are sitting around a table and they're playing this game. I don't remember what the name of the game was, but I do know the goal was to answer the question around, if you were going to be an animal, which animal would you want to be? So people were going around the table and you're hearing the basic things. I'm sure most of you guys have heard some of this before, like, oh, I'd love to be a bear because this, and this. I want to be an eagle because this, and this. I'm going to be a lion. You know, they got all kinds of people that are saying all types of things, right? So the guy that just happened to be sitting next to me, it gets around to his turn. And his answer blew me away. So they ask him, they say, hey, if you had a choice and you could be any animal, what would you be? And this guy says, I would want to be a salmon. Everybody looks around like, what do you mean you want to be a salmon? Like the fish type of sandwich? Like the 8-pound, 25, 30-inch animal? That's what you want to be? He's like, yeah, I want to be a salmon. So we stop. Everybody wants to hear this guy's explanation as to why he wants to be a salmon. And he blows us away. So he starts by saying, do you guys know the full lifespan of a salmon? Of course we don't. So he says it's anywhere between 2 to 8 years, 2 to 7 years, normally about 4 or 5 years average length, average time frame. Okay, great. So he says from the time that salmon are born, once they're born, their bodies, the eggs, sperm, whatever you'd want to call it, start to go downriver, right? Downstream. So once they go downstream, they eventually get to a bigger body of water, whether it's a lake, saltwater ocean, could be anything, right? Probably more oceans than anything. Throughout the time that salmon go through that 2 to 7 years that they're alive, they are naturally growing, maturing, but they're gathering nutrients. So their whole lifetime, they're gathering nutrients from things they're bumping up against, things that they eat, plants, the water, other sea life. They're just turning into more and more of a muscle of nutrients, if you will. So once they get to a certain part of life, they begin the process of reproduction. But they can't reproduce unless they go back home. So in order to go back home, they have to make sure that they go back upstream or back upriver, right? And this process, if I remember correctly, is called like anadromous or anadromous, something to that extent, right? But it means upriver or going the river up, something like that. Nevertheless, they take this whole process of going back upstream, which means they have to jump around rocks, they have to remove themselves from barriers, they're going left, they're going right, they're doing everything they can, and this process is strenuous. Some of you have probably seen it on the animal shows out there, right? When you see just bears sitting at the side of rivers and they just have fish jumping in their mouth, that's what it is, anadromous. So they're doing this to get back home. All they want to do is get back home. So they're going back upstream. They're fighting. They're taking time. They're resting. They're going back against the grain. They're going back against the current. They're fighting everything that they have to get back home. And once they get back home, they decide to reproduce. They find a nice, quiet spot and they reproduce. Pretty simple. But it's not that easy. See, once they reproduce and they spawn, if you will, their eggs go back downstream like they did, right? Goes along with the current. But as soon as salmon reproduce, they die. So how crazy is that? You go through this full process to get back home. You are fighting to get back home just so you can reproduce to die on the spot. You do everything you can to add to the species, to maintain the species. That's what you do in death. Talk about adding value. But it doesn't stop there. Once they die, they're still adding value. You see, because their bodies start to go downriver, right? And as that body decays, that bomb of nutrients that they've been building their whole lives start to feed out to life. So it's feeding the water, it's feeding the plants, it's feeding other fish, it's feeding mammals, thus the bears. It's just one huge bomb of nutrients. All it's doing is giving back to life the entire time, even in death. So think about this. This specific species, from the time it's born to the time it dies, is doing nothing but preparing to add more value back to life in a 5-year lifespan. We have adults, one being me, that are on this planet that are fully grown adults that within 10 times the lifespan of a salmon will not be able to add as much value as they did, even in death. That's crazy. This process is so big that they even coined it. It's called the Great Nutrient Cycle. So when these specific fish die, salmon, they even have a process for it. The Great Nutrient Cycle. That bomb goes off inside of them and all they do is give back to life. Talk about adding value. So I have one simple ask. The next time you're at your local steakhouse, you go out, maybe friends, family, let's say a group of 5, and you guys are looking at the menu, deciding what you're gonna eat, and someone decides to order the salmon. You wait until that salmon comes out and it looks beautiful sitting on that plate, that platter, and it's ready to be eaten. And I want you to look at the person that ordered the salmon, and I want you to tell that person, did you know that that dead salmon right there on your plate is adding more value to life than every single one of our lifespans here combined? How ridiculous is that? That's the answer this guy gave us during a drinking contest. He would want to be a salmon. So I'll ask you again. How do you add value to life? Thanks for spending some more time with me. I hope this short story added value. If it did, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Most importantly, share this out with your family members or your loved ones or those individuals you know need to hear it. I'll catch you guys next time, right here on Handles.